I've never been good at pretending that my life was easy. I grew up in a house where the lights flickered more often than they stayed on, where bills whispered threats from the table, and where silence filled the rooms long after my father left. Most boys my age learned confidence from their fathers. I learned survival from my mother. She worked late shifts, came home smelling like burnt oil and cheap detergent, and still managed to kiss my forehead before collapsing into sleep. I always felt grateful but also guilty, like I was a weight she had to drag through every day. School wasn't much better. I wasn't the talkative kid, or the brave one, or the funny one who could lighten a room. I was just there. The boy teachers forgot to call on, the face people didn't recognize outside class, the kid who blended into corners. I learned early that blending in was safer than standing out. Being invisible kept me from being teased, but it also kept me from being seen at all. Except by him. Michael lived next door his whole life, and somehow, even when I was young, he always managed to make me feel less like a shadow. He was older, 8 years older, a grown man by the time I was entering high school. But to me, he was this impossible combination of strength and calm. Broad shoulders, sun-browned skin, and a quiet confidence that made everyone in the neighborhood trust him without question. I still remember being 15, standing by my window pretending to look for my shoes, when really I was staring at Michael mowing his lawn. His shirt clung to his back, the muscles under his shoulders pulling with every push of the mower. I didn't understand then why my chest tightened every time he wiped sweat from his forehead or took a slow drink from the garden hose. I just knew something inside me reacted differently to him. Something warm, something confusing, something I tried to push away. But even then, Michael treated me like I mattered. He noticed when my bike chain kept slipping and fixed it without being asked. When other kids mocked me for being quiet, he told me not to let anyone make me smaller than I already felt. When my mom came home too tired to deal with the leaky faucet, Michael replaced the pipe himself and refused to take money for it. He wasn't just a neighbor. He was the only steady thing in a world that felt constantly on edge. Years passed, but that feeling never disappeared. Every time I saw him, it rose quietly inside me. Admiration, fear, wanting, a mixture that I didn't dare name. Now I'm 26, and not much has changed in my bank account, except the urgency. I finally got offered a position at a warehouse across the city. More money, more hours, a chance to give my mom a break and finally stand on my own. But there's a catch. The job requires someone who can drive, and I never learned. Couldn't afford lessons. Couldn't afford a car. Couldn't afford much of anything. So here I am, staring at Michael's front door like it's a test I've been avoiding my entire life. He's the only one I trust to help me learn. The only one who won't laugh at my fear. The only man who has ever made me feel seen. My hand trembles as I lift it to knock. I don't know if it's nerves, or the old ache in my chest that never really left. The door swings open before I can collect myself. Michael stands there, tall and steady, looking at me with a smile that feels too gentle, too knowing. As if he's been waiting for this moment. As if he's been waiting for me. The next morning, Michael hands me the car keys with a calmness I wish I could borrow. His truck looks bigger than I remember, almost intimidating. I climb into the passenger seat first, trying not to seem nervous, but my legs feel too light, like they might stop working any second. Michael settles behind the wheel and starts explaining the basics. His tone is steady, patient, like he's been teaching people his whole life. He points out the pedals, the mirrors, the difference between the gear positions. His fingers move with confidence, long and sure, brushing lightly against the console as he talks. I try to keep my eyes on the dashboard, but every so often, I glance at him, wondering how he manages to look so composed. "Nothing to worry about," he says, turning toward me with that small, reassuring smile. "You'll get it." I nod, pretending that I believe him. Then we switch. As I slide into the driver's seat, my heart thumps too loudly. The smell of his cologne lingers in the air, warm, clean, faintly woodsy. Michael sits down beside me, the truck tilting slightly under his weight. The space feels smaller now, warmer, as if the air between us has thickened. "Hands on the wheel," he instructs gently. I place my hands where he showed me, but they're trembling. Michael notices. Of course he does. Without warning, he leans toward me. My breath catches. His arm brushes against mine as he reaches across to adjust my grip. His chest nearly touches my shoulder. I can feel the heat from his body, steady and strong, like he carries a small sun beneath his skin. He curls my fingers slightly, shaping my hands into the exact position he wants. His voice drops lower, more focused. Don't tense up. Relax. Relax. When he's close enough that I can feel his breath slide down my neck, I force myself to look forward, to focus, but the closeness blurs my thoughts. The wheel feels slippery under my palms. My pulse races so fast I can hear it in my ears. I don't know if he notices. Part of me hopes he doesn't. Another part wonders if he does. Now press the brake, he says. I do, though my foot shakes. The engine vibrates faintly through the floor, and I'm suddenly aware of everything. The texture of the seat, the warmth radiating from his side, the smell of leather mixed with his cologne. Good, he murmurs, his shoulder almost touching mine. Now shift into drive. I try. The shift jerks, and the truck lurches forward an inch. My whole body jumps with it, knocking lightly into Michael's arm. His hand settles on the console, steadying himself, and for a half second, our arms stay pressed together. My skin sparks. Why does his closeness feel like electricity? I swallow hard and try again. We roll forward slowly, then stop, then move again. Every small mistake throws me off balance. Every jolt sends me leaning into him by accident. Each time he stays calm, giving short, quiet instructions, but his voice keeps changing lower, firmer, almost too controlled, like he's holding something back. You're doing fine, he says, eyes focused straight ahead. But the faint tension in his jaw betrays him. The truck jerks again as I shift wrong, and I flinch backward without thinking. This time, it's not my shoulder that hits him. It's the small of my back. I freeze. My lower back presses against his thigh for a second, just a second, but it's enough to send a shock through me. Enough to feel the immediate, involuntary stiffening of his body. Michael doesn't move, doesn't speak, but the air changes instantly, turning heavier, thicker, charged with something neither of us names. I straighten up quickly, heart pounding, breath tight. Michael exhales once, slow, controlled. Too controlled. As if that one accidental touch shook him more than anything he's let me see. The next few lessons feel different, though nothing is said out loud. Michael's instructions stay calm, his tone steady, but there's something new underneath it. An attention I can feel even when he isn't speaking. Maybe especially then. During a break, when the truck idles quietly at the edge of an empty parking lot, I adjust the mirror to check behind us. Instead, I catch Michael's eyes watching me. Not casually, not like a teacher. His gaze is focused, almost searching, as if he's trying to read something I haven't said. The moment our eyes meet, he looks away too slowly, as if giving himself time to memorize the view. I look down quickly, pretending to fix my seatbelt even though it's already buckled. That heat rises in my chest again. Confusion, nervousness, something sharper. Josh, he says suddenly, voice quieter than before. Why don't you date? The question hits me harder than it should. Feels too direct, too personal. I stare at the dashboard, pretending I didn't hear him clearly. What? I ask, even though I know exactly what he said. You don't go out with anyone, he continues. He keeps his tone casual, but I can feel the curiosity underneath. A guy like you? You should have people lining up. My throat tightens. No one has ever said anything like that to me.
I'm Busse Imambel.
Michael shakes his head slightly, the corner of his mouth lifting in a soft, almost disbelieving smile. Busy is an excuse. There's more to it. He's right, but I don't know how to explain that growing up lonely teaches you to expect nothing. That being ignored for years makes you believe you're not worth choosing. That every time I saw people laughing together, I felt like I was watching a world I didn't belong to. I open my mouth to respond, but nothing comes out. You're a good-looking guy, Josh, he says, voice dipping lower. You don't even see it. I feel heat flood my face instantly. I turn my head toward the window, hoping he doesn't notice how red I must be. His compliment lingers in the air between us, heavier than the warm sunlight filling the truck. It's the first time anyone has ever said something like that to me, and the fact that it's coming from him makes my chest tighten in a way I can't describe. "Focus on your posture," he says after a moment, clearing his throat as if pulling himself back to safer ground. He leans closer, reaching behind my shoulder to adjust the seat. His hand brushes lightly against me. Barely a touch, just his fingertips, but I freeze instantly. Every part of me goes still, like my body is trying to memorize the exact place he touched. Michael notices. His hand pauses for the briefest second, then moves away like he's afraid of what might happen if he lingers. We don't comment on it, but the silence afterward feels charged, almost humming. "Try reversing again," he says, but his voice has changed. Steady yet softer. "Careful." I shift into reverse, but it's hard to focus. My heartbeat is loud. My hands feel too warm. Every time he glances at me, I feel it, not just see it. Like his attention has weight, like it presses gently against my skin. When the lesson ends, I open the door quickly, wanting fresh air, maybe space to think. The ground feels uneven under my feet as I step out. But before I walk away, I turn slightly, just enough to look at him through the corner of my eye. Michael is still watching me. Not like a teacher, not like a neighbor, not like a straight man who feels nothing. His gaze stays on me far too long. Long enough that when he finally looks away, it feels like he had to force himself. And that's when I realize, whatever's happening between us isn't in my imagination. I'm 10 minutes late. Not a big deal for most people, but my stomach twists the whole walk over. Michael isn't the type to complain, but disappointing him feels heavier than disappointing anyone else. When I turn the corner, the sight hits me harder than expected. Michael is already outside. He's not in the truck, not in the garage, not just passing time. He's leaning against the driver's side door with his arms crossed tightly over his chest, as if he's been rooted there, waiting for only one person to show up. Me. His chin lifts the moment he spots me. Something flickers across his expression. Relief, tension, something trapped and unspoken. The porch light behind him casts a faint halo around his shoulders, making him look even larger, more solid, as if the world around him shifts to make space for his presence. "You're late," he says. Not angry, not sharp, just affected. "Sorry," I whisper. He pushes off the car slowly, stepping closer. The movement is controlled, deliberate, almost like he's trying to calm something inside himself before it shows. "It's fine," he murmurs, but the stiffness in his jaw betrays him. He reaches for the door handle and opens it for me. No rush, no impatience. Just a slow, steady motion, like he's studying every detail of my face while I approach. His eyes stay on me longer than necessary, focused and searching, as if he's trying to read everything I'm not saying. I climb into the driver's seat, suddenly aware of every sound. The creak of the leather, my uneven breath, the faint shuffle of his boots as he circles the front of the truck. When he enters the passenger side, the cab shrinks instantly. He sits closer today. There's no reason for it. Plenty of space remains between us, but Michael chooses the edge of his seat, angled toward me, his knees nearer than before. The air seems to tighten with him this close. I adjust my position to reach for the seatbelt. That's when it happens. My thigh brushes his, just a brief two. The sound is subtle, but in the quiet truck, I hear it clearly. His shoulders tense, his breathing changes, and his fingers flex against his jeans like he's grounding himself. His eyes stay forward, but I can see the tension rippling through him. Like something he's holding back suddenly flares to the surface. I look at him carefully. His jaw is set. His chest rises a little too sharply. His gaze refuses to meet mine. "Are you okay?" I ask gently. The question snaps through the silence like a pin dropping in a still room. He answers too fast. "Yeah," he says, voice tight. "Just focus on driving." Too quick, too controlled, too forced. His words say one thing, But everything else, his body, his breath, his posture, tells a different story entirely. And for the first time, I realize I'm not the only one affected by all of this. By the fifth lesson, something in Michael has shifted. He doesn't say it, but I feel it in the way he watches my hands, the way his voice lowers when I hesitate, the way the air in the truck thickens the moment I sit beside him. His calm confidence is still there, but there's a new edge to it, something sharper, something he seems to be holding back. Steady, he murmurs as I approach a stop sign. I try, but my pulse is distracting. My grip slips. The car veers slightly. Before I can correct it, Michael reaches out and places his hand over mine. Not a quick tap. Not a brief guide. His fingers settle around my hand, firm and warm, fitting with an ease that makes my breath catch. His palm covers the back of my hand completely, steadying me, shaping my knuckles with gentle pressure. Like this, he says softly. His voice vibrates through me. He leaves his hand there longer than necessary. Long enough for me to feel the heat of his skin sink into mine. Long enough for my stomach to twist with something I can't name. When he finally pulls away, the absence feels louder than the touch. I swallow hard. My focus slips again. Eyes on the road, he reminds me. I try, I really do, but every time he leans in, his scent reaches me. A warm blend of soap, leather, and something uniquely him. It fills the small space between us. Settles on my clothes. Finds its way into my head. His breathing doesn't help. It's deep, steady, but sometimes when I make a small mistake, it changes, grows heavier, almost like he's fighting himself. He leans forward to adjust the mirror, and his shoulder brushes mine. My body tenses instantly. The contact is light, but it feels like a spark running up my spine. My fingers slip on the wheel again. Michael clicks his tongue softly, not annoyed, just affected. Relax, he says, though he sounds like he's struggling with the same thing. I adjust in my seat, trying to give him space, but it doesn't matter. He's too close, too warm. The truck feels too small. Every time I breathe in, I take in pieces of him. Every time he speaks, my chest tightens. He places his hand over mine again when I drift too far left. This time, his fingers curve around mine with more intention. Not forceful, but certain. A quiet claim disguised as guidance. Feel the wheel, he says. Not just grip it. His thumb grazes the side of my hand. An unintentional movement, but it sends heat through me so fast I nearly forget to breathe. Sometimes it felt like he wanted to guide me. I think, watching his jaw tighten as he pulls his hand away again. Other times, like he wanted to claim me. Michael exhales sharply, leaning back as if he needs distance. His eyes stay on the windshield, but his expression gives him away. Something he's trying to bury keeps rising to the surface. Try the brakes, he orders quietly. I press the pedal, but my nerves betray me. I hit it too hard. The truck jerks forward, and both of us lurch with it. Before I can catch myself, Michael reaches out, fast, instinctive, and grabs my waist. His hands wrap around me firmly, holding me steady against the force of the stop. His fingers settle at my sides, warm and grounding. For a moment, neither of us move. I feel his breath on my neck. He feels my heart hammering under his touch. He doesn't let go. Not right away. Not until he realizes just how tightly he's holding me. And the silence that follows feels far too dangerous to ignore. I never asked Michael why he cared about me. I always assumed he helped everyone the way he helped us, out of kindness, out of habit, out of being the kind of man people trusted. But after these driving lessons, after the touches he didn't mean to leave lingering, after the looks he couldn't hide, my mind kept wandering back to the past. The things I once ignored suddenly felt like clues. When I was 10, a couple of older boys cornered me behind the school. I was small, shy, the perfect target. They shoved me around until one of them pushed too hard, and I scraped my arm on the pavement. Before they could laugh, a shadow fell over all of us. Michael. He must have been 18 then, towering, broad-shouldered, a presence that swallowed the space around him. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He just stepped forward with a look that made both boys freeze. You touch him again, he said quietly. You deal with me. They ran. I remember staring at him, too shocked to speak. I thought he would walk away, but he crouched down, checked my arm, and gently brushed the dirt off. His hands were big even back then, rough from working on cars and chopping wood for his dad, but his touch was careful. You okay, kid? He asked. No one had ever asked me that before. Years later, when my mom was juggling double shifts and barely sleeping, Michael fixed our porch light, unclogged the sink, and repaired our heater during winter. He never asked for money. He just showed up, toolbox in hand, like he had decided long ago that helping us was his responsibility. One night, when I was around 12, I overheard him talking to my mother in the kitchen. I'd gone downstairs for water but stopped at the doorway when I heard my name. He's a good kid, Michael said. His voice was steady, certain. He'll grow into something big. Don't let him doubt that. My mom didn't say much. She was too tired to respond, but I never forgot his words. Back then, I didn't know why he believed in me when most people barely noticed I existed. As I grew older, I caught him looking out for me in small ways. If I walked home late from work, he would happen to be outside. If my bike chain slipped, he fixed it before I could struggle with it. If neighborhood kids laughed at me, he shut it down without hesitation. People joked that Michael acted like my older brother, but he never treated me like one. He acted protective, yes, but there was always something quieter beneath it, something watchful, something almost careful. Now, sitting in his truck during a break, the memories feel different. They don't feel random anymore. They feel intentional, like threads that were always pointing toward this moment. I think about how he stares at me now, like he's seeing a version of me he was waiting for. I think about how he stiffens when I get too close, how his voice roughens when he corrects me, how he touches me with a hesitation that betrays desire and restraint at the same time. I never questioned his presence back then, but now I can't stop questioning it. Why did he always show up at the exact moment I needed someone? Why did he watch me with that same quiet intensity long before these lessons ever began? Why does he look at me now like he's fighting something he's held in for years? The truth sinks into me slowly, unsettling and warm all at once. Michael didn't just protect me. He watched me, closely, constantly, quietly, and as the pieces fall together in my mind, a single thought rises like a whisper I'm almost afraid to hear. Was he protecting me, or waiting for me? The afternoon sun spills across the empty parking lot as Michael tells me to practice parallel parking. I nod, pretending to focus, but my nerves have been stretched thin since the moment I stepped into the truck. The air feels thick, warmer than it should be, filled with the silent things neither of us has dared to name. Turn your wheel slowly, Michael says. I try, but the angle is wrong. The car drifts too close to the curb. Hold on, he murmurs. Let me show you. He leans in, reaching across my chest to take the wheel. His arm brushes my stomach, and the sudden closeness makes my breath snag in my throat. I try scooting back to give him space, but the seatbelt tightens, locking me in place. I twist slightly in my seat, trying to adjust. That's the mistake. My back shifts into him, firm, warm, solid. The contact lasts less than a second, but it's enough for both of us to stop breathing. Michael goes completely still. His hands freeze on the wheel. His chest rises once, sharply, then again slower. I can hear the change instantly. His breathing deepens, low and uneven, like he's trying to pull himself under control before something breaks loose. Josh, he whispers. My name comes out rough, almost strained. I don't move. I don't even blink. Stay still, he adds, voice barely above a breath. My heart slams against my ribs. Heat rushes into my face. I want to look at him, but I'm afraid of what I'll see. Afraid of confirming what I've only felt in his touches. His stares, his silence. I remain facing forward, but I can sense every inch of him behind me. The closeness, the warmth, the tension wrapping around us like a rope pulled too tight. Inside, I'm spiraling. What is he feeling? Why is he reacting like this? Why can't I move? Why don't I want to? Michael inhales again, shakier this time. His fingers tighten around the wheel, knuckles whitening. He looks away, jaw flexing hard, as though he's forcing himself to keep a distance that his body no longer wants to respect. He's fighting something so clearly, so visibly, that it makes my throat dry. His self-control looks like it's hanging by a thread. One wrong move and it might snap.
Sorry, I managed to whisper.
It's fine, he says quickly, too quickly, but his voice betrays him. Quiet, heavy, almost pained. It's fine, just breathe. I do, but it doesn't help. The truck feels smaller than ever. The air feels charged, humming with an energy that hasn't stopped building since the first lesson. The tension is so thick it feels like another presence in the cab, pressing against both of us. Michael keeps his head turned toward the window, as if refusing to look at me is the only thing holding him together. His fists clench, release, then clench again on his thighs. He's trying so hard to keep control. Too hard. And then it happens. A small shift, a tiny movement. Maybe I breathe too deeply or lean the slightest bit back. But the space between us closes again, just enough for me to feel it. Michael's chest against my spine, his breath against my shoulder, his heartbeat, fast, fierce, unsteady, thudding right into my back. A rhythm that says everything neither of us is brave enough to speak. The night Michael decides I'm ready for a longer drive, the world feels different. The sun is gone, the heat has settled, and the city glows in soft blues and golds. Streetlights flicker across the windshield as we pull onto the quiet road, leaving the familiar neighborhood behind. Soft music plays through the speakers. Something instrumental, low enough that I can hear the hum of the engine and the steady rhythm of Michael's breathing beside me. The darkness wraps itself around us, turning the truck into its own little world, sealed off from everything else. Relax your shoulders, Michael murmurs. I do, though the tension inside me doesn't fade. Driving at night is easier than I expected. There's less noise, fewer cars, more space to breathe. But the silence between us feels heavier than the road. For a long while we say nothing. Then, out of nowhere, Michael speaks. You ever feel like you don't fit anywhere? His voice is softer than I've ever heard it. Not instructive, not guarded, just human. I glance at him. His eyes are on the window, reflecting the blur of passing lights. I guess so, I say quietly. Most of my life, yeah. He exhales, a sound that carries more weight than air. Me too. The music continues, gentle and distant. I always thought you had everything figured out, I admit. Michael lets out a short laugh. Not mocking, more like disbelief. Josh, I don't have anything figured out. His fingers tap the door once, a nervous habit I've never seen from him. I spend most nights alone. No one to talk to, no one to come home to, just empty rooms and silence. Something tightens in my chest. I didn't know you felt like that, I whisper. You weren't supposed to. He looks at me this time just briefly, but enough for me to feel it. You've always been this light. Even when you were a kid. You didn't see it, but you carried hope in your eyes. Hope? I've spent my whole life feeling like a cracked mirror, reflecting nothing good back at anyone. I'm not that, I say quietly. I'm just trying to make things work. Trying not to disappoint anyone. Hey! His voice deepens, gentle but firm. You've never disappointed anyone. My throat tightens. Words spill out before I can stop them.
I'm scared, Michael.
About life, about failing again. About not being enough for anything or anyone. I act like I'm fine, but I'm not. The admission leaves me feeling exposed. Almost raw. Michael doesn't look away. You don't have to be enough for the whole world, he says softly. You just need one person who believes in you. I swallow. Who would that be? He hesitates just a second. Then, I always believed in you. His voice cracks on the word, always, barely audible, but enough to break something loose inside me. I grip the steering wheel tighter, trying to breathe through the sudden warmth rising in my chest. The truck slows as we approach a red light. The glow from the signal casts soft red shadows across Michael's face, outlining his jaw, his cheekbones, the faint stubble along his chin. He watches me. Not cautiously, not like before, but openly. His eyes hold something he can't hide anymore. Something I'm terrified to understand but can't pull away from. For a moment, everything else disappears. The cars around us, the distant sounds of the city, even the music. It's just the two of us suspended in a bubble of quiet truth. Michael leans forward slightly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Josh!" My breath stutters. His eyes drop to my lips for a fraction of a second, quick, but unmistakable. Then he whispers, low and rough and trembling with something he's been holding back. "Do you even know what you do to me, Josh?" The light turns green, but neither of us moves. By the time the next lesson comes around, something feels different in the air. I sense it even before I reach Michael's driveway. His truck is parked outside, engine off, windows slightly fogged from the lingering heat. But he isn't inside. He's pacing, back and forth across the concrete. Hands on his hips, head down, shoulders tense. There's a frustration in his movements, like he's fighting with himself and losing. "Michael!" I call out gently. He stops immediately but doesn't turn around. Instead, he stands still for a moment, inhaling deeply, as if steadying himself before facing me. When he finally looks at me, his eyes are different. Red-rimmed, focused, burning with something he can't hide anymore. "You're early," he says quietly. "I'm on time," I reply. "You're the one out here acting like the world's ending." He huffs out a breath that's almost a laugh, but there's no humor in it, just tension. He runs a hand through his hair, making it fall messily around his forehead. "I just needed air," he mutters, voice low. "But it's not air. It's me. I can feel it." We walk to the truck without speaking. The silence between us is thicker than anything we've shared before. When I open the door and slide into the driver's seat, my hands feel too light, too clumsy. My heartbeat echoes through my chest. Michael circles around the front of the truck. And then he hesitates. For a second, he stands outside my door, gripping the handle but not opening it, as if entering the cab means crossing a line he can't uncross. Finally, he climbs in, but instead of sitting with the usual space between us, he sits closer. Much closer. Our arms brush lightly as he buckles his seatbelt, and the soft contact sends a jolt up my spine. His thigh nearly touches mine, and the warmth radiating from him spreads through the small space like a tide. "You okay?" I ask. "Fine," he says. He's not fine. He's anything but fine. His jaw is tight. His breathing is uneven. His shoulders tense every time I shift slightly in my seat. And he keeps staring straight ahead like he's afraid to look at me. I grip the wheel, trying to calm myself, but the tension is unbearable. The air between us feels charged, sparking with every tiny movement. "Michael, talk to me," I whisper. He closes his eyes for a moment. His hands clench on his thighs. "I'm trying," he says softly. "Just drive." I start the engine, but my mind is nowhere near the road. Every breath he takes brushes against my shoulder. Every time I adjust my grip, our arms graze. The air grows hotter, heavier, almost suffocating. "Turn left," he says. His voice is rough, unsteady. When I glance at him, I catch him watching me. Not subtly, not carefully, but openly, like he can't stop himself anymore. His eyes drop to my mouth, then dart away, his fists tightening again. Something inside me snaps. I turn toward him fully. He inhales sharply. Our faces are inches apart. Our breaths mix in the small space between us. "Michael," I whisper. His composure shatters. All of it. Every wall he's kept up since the first lesson. His eyes lock onto mine. Raw, vulnerable, desperate. He shakes his head like he's trying to fight himself. But he can't. Not anymore. Finally, in a voice low enough to shake me to my core, he admits, "I'm not as straight as you think. Not with you." The words hang in the air like a spark dropped into gasoline. And there's no going back now. The truck rolls to a stop in a quiet corner of the lot, far from the streetlights, far from anything that could interrupt what's about to happen. The engine ticks softly as it cools. Outside, the night settles heavy and still, wrapping us in a darkness that feels strangely protective. Michael doesn't speak at first. He just sits there, breathing hard, hands tense on his thighs, eyes fixed on the empty windshield like he's scared to look at me again. The confession he just made hangs between us, alive and pulsing, filling the tiny space of the cab with a heat neither of us can escape. After a long moment, he finally turns toward me. "Josh," he says, and my name shakes in his throat. "I need you to listen, because I can't keep pretending anymore." I nod, unable to trust my voice. He swallows, gaze flicking to the steering wheel, then back to me. "I've watched you grow up. Not in a weird way, just, I noticed you. I saw how hard things were for you, how much you tried, how easily people overlooked you." I look down, my chest tightening. "But I didn't," he continues. "I never did." He shifts closer, elbows resting loosely on his knees as he stares at the floor, like the truth is too heavy to say while looking at me directly. "You were this quiet kid who kept everything inside, and I admired you for that. You were stronger than you realized." My breath catches because no one has ever described me like that. Michael presses his palms together, struggling. "I tried to stay away when you got older. I told myself it wasn't my place, that I was just the guy next door. But every time I saw you, something in me reacted. I didn't understand it. I didn't want to." He lets out a strained breath. "And then you asked me to teach you driving." His eyes finally rise to meet mine. "That's when everything got harder." The cab feels hotter now, tighter. My heartbeat thunders in my ears. "I thought I could handle it," he admits. "Thought I could sit beside you and be normal. But every time you leaned forward, every time you brushed against me, every time your voice shook or you got nervous." He stops, jaw flexing. "It did something to me." My hands grip my knees as he continues. "You confused me, Josh, more than anyone ever has. I've dated women my whole life. I thought I knew who I was. But with you," he shakes his head slowly, "nothing made sense anymore." His voice softens, breaking at the edges. "I didn't mean to fall for you. I swear I didn't. But I couldn't stop it." The world narrows to just his words and the small, trembling distance between us. He leans back slightly, running a hand over his face. "I wasn't teaching you how to drive," he says, voice raw. "I was trying not to lose control around you." The confession hits me like a wave, heavy, warm, undeniable. All the lingering touches, the looks he tried to hide, the tension he couldn't control, none of it was in my imagination. He finally reaches out, hesitating before letting his fingers brush mine. Light, trembling, honest. "Josh," he whispers, "I care about you, more than I should, more than I planned. And I don't know what this means, or what it makes me. I just needed you to know the truth." Silence settles again. Not the awkward kind. The kind that changes everything. My heart feels too full, too loud. I swallow hard. "What happens now?" I ask, barely hearing my own voice. Michael doesn't look away. He squeezes my hand gently, eyes warm, vulnerable, completely open for the first time. "Whatever you want, Josh," he says softly. And I believe him,